As somebody who's sort of observed and witnessed you grow and see the incredible thought leadership that you have, every time I see something, I'm like, wow, that's Rasie. Like, that is Rasie.
It feels different when someone else is reading your bio and about you, and it's humbling.
Can you share with us how has your leadership journey been? Where did you begin and where are you now?
I think it's like when you have this like vision and this goal, for me personally, I just strive for it. I've always understood that there's a way. I had to really get to know my team on totally different levels and come from a space of collaborating with them. Just gotta trust the process. We got this.
Hi there. Welcome to Unspeakable Leadership, a space that transcends time, borders, and barriers to reclaim our stories as women of color, leading in organizations, communities, and in our own lives. I'm your host, Rasie Bamigbade. With a 20-year career trajectory of leadership, an aspiring storyteller, mom of a son and a fur baby, first-generation immigrant, an uninvited guest in Canada, I want to thank you for being on this journey with me. Let us grow together in conversation. Hi, everyone. I have to tell you that our next guest is somebody who is so deeply special and kind, and somebody who I cannot wait for you to meet. Now, I have a funny story, but I'll keep it and save it for some point in this conversation. Before I first tell you a little bit about Rasie Bamigbade. Rasie is the founder of RB Jumpstart Coaching and RB Jumpstart Mentorship and Youth Leadership Training Society. She is a dynamic leadership coach, book coach, speaker, and author of not just one, but 3 Amazon bestsellers. You can find her incredible books, Be Not Alone, Lead in Your Truth, and Heal on Your Own Terms. And we'll provide the link, which is how you can do that, in the show notes. Through her collaboration with organizations and companies, Rasie delivers impactful leadership training, development programs, events, including retreats and seminars. She also guides aspiring authors through the book creation process, transforming their incredible ideas into published works. As somebody who is deeply committed to giving back through her youth mentorship program, Rasie empowers young people to take control of their lives by offering valuable mentorship resources and connecting them with reliable mentors. Now, it would be remiss for me to say what really drives Rasie. And I can tell you, at the heart of her mission is closing the opportunity gap in leadership, something that we're both aligned in and excited to be on the same journey on. Rasie, thank you so much for joining us at
It's my
Unspeakable Leadership.
it's my pleasure. What a beautiful opening. Thank you.
I
Welcome.
know. And I love that you giggled a little when I also was open, and I'm so curious. What made you laugh? Share with us.
It was like your pauses, right? And it's all sinking in. It feels different when someone else is reading your bio and about you. And it's humbling. It gives me a moment to kind of pause and acknowledge, okay,
Yeah,
this is the work that I'm doing. It feels different.
yeah.
And yeah, it's beautiful. And my
Oh my
giggles,
gosh.
laughter is like after any sentence, I like to laugh.
I know. I know. And I do hear you. I do hear you. Like, it does. I hope that you hearing the words of something that is such a deeply and powerful resonance of the work that you're doing is
Mhm.
just that platform of uplifting, the incredible
Mhm.
mission that you're on. And as somebody who's sort of observed and witnessed you um, grow and see the incredible thought leadership that you have curated with so much intention on your platforms, um, like, every time I see something, I'm like, wow, that's Rasie. Like, that is Rasie. And so, thank you. Thank you for being on such an incredible and empowering journey, which I cannot wait for us to really get into it. But I did promise at the beginning, sharing with people a bit of a funny story. And
Mhm.
the funny story is one in which Rasie and I have been kind of giggling and laughing about for the last couple of weeks. For many of you, you'll know that I might mention at some point that this season, her next act, was all about me connecting with incredible women who are on this journey. And this was our second attempt, Rasie and I, at having this conversation because in the middle of the conversation, an earthquake occurred with our first recording. And both of us, not only in the moment did we sit there and think, oh gosh, what is happening? But thankfully, afterwards, we had a chuckle because there is nothing like having a visual um, representation of your reaction in the moment to an earthquake. And what a funny one it was for both of us. Maybe not in the moment, but afterwards.
Oh, yeah, definitely afterwards. I think, there's just yeah, it's just unexpected, right? I'm like, "Why there must be a really big truck, like, moving across my yard right now." That I'm feeling the shake, and then all of a sudden, you're shaking on your end, and then we're both like, "It's an earthquake."
It's an
Well, and computer says, "I gotta get to a secure
iconic.
spot." Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness.
Oh,
I can't get over, like, I shared the short clip with my brother, and he was just having such a blast, such a little rascal. Well, not a little rascal, a big rascal. It's like grown up. But, I just remember him saying, like, "Your eyes, sis, your eyes." Like, my eyes was just like, "Danger, danger. Gotta go."
oh, truly. When I looked at my video, Resi, I kept thinking of, those Just for Laughs gags. And for those of you who don't know, Just for Laughs is an incredible organization based out in Montreal that is all about comedy. And I remember watching sometimes the pranks in Just for Laughs gags and seeing people's reactions and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that was us. If we ever needed a video to submit to the Just for Love gags, that would be it.
And
It was so
like, what pops up for me right now just in relation to leadership, I remember a manager I was working for at McDonald's was like, "Rasty, you need to go home, practice the expressions that you make when you say certain things, because 'cause I'm very expressive, like, you can see right through it." And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes we gotta curate it a little bit, right? Like, you just gotta be curious, hold it back, it might not be
Yeah,
what you actually thinking. And that's when
totally.
I started to practice with my facial expressions because 'cause I'm very
Yeah.
expressive and it is what it
Oh
is, what
my
you
god.
see.
Yeah.
And, when you're working with, like, large team, you just kinda gotta
Yeah.
be mindful of what you're seeing at first. That first impression might not actually be what it is.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. My eyebrows are what give everything away, so oh my gosh. I know we could and this is what I love about both of us, and when we get into conversation, we have fun. We have fun. So this is a great bird's eye view into just who we are. You know, Razzie, I speaking of leadership, I know you're somebody who has just navigated leadership in such powerful ways, and I'm curious, can you share with us how has your leadership journey been? Where did you begin and where are you now?
Mhm. I so this is something that I share it once in a while. Like, I think it
Mhm.
all started for me when I was about 8, 7, 8, 9 years old, around there, and,
Yeah.
one day we didn't get picked up from school, so it's usually, like,
Mhm.
myself, my brother, and my neighbors. This is in Sierra Leone, West Africa, and,
So
so it's just something just clicked, like, "Okay, you gotta take the lead on this," and I remember telling all, my brother and all our neighbors, like, we're all around the same age group, like, maybe I maybe was, like, a year or 2 years older than some, and I was
Right.
like, "Okay, we're all gonna hold our hands, we're gonna walk all the way home." It's probably like an hour walk or so. We're all gonna
Wow.
walk home, and you do not let go of anybody's hand no matter what, and you don't talk to anybody. And I remember just taking on that responsibility, like, how heavy it was. I was like, "We just gotta make it home safe, gotta make it home safe." And we're all, as we're approaching our neighborhood, one person lets go because 'cause they're at the house, one other person lets go,
Oh.
and, me and my brother were the last ones to, get home, and I think
Mhm.
that's where it activated for me when I look back,
Mm.
and it's what I saw, like, how my parents show up in their actions and not just their words, but, like, how
Mhm.
they led other people within their teams, right? Like, my mom was a
Mhm.
nurse for the hospital, my dad an engineer for the for National Power Authority in Sierra Leone. So I think
Mm.
that's where I started for me. Maybe it's genetic. And when
Right.
I moved to Canada, I played in a lot of different sports. Love team, like playing with a team and supporting the team and learning things about myself or how I can be a better team player. And then I worked at the dollar store and McDonald's, at the same time, because at that
Mhm.
time, in order for you to get paid instead of $6 an hour and get paid $8 an hour, you need 500 hours of work experience, and I'm new to Canada,
Mm.
me on refugee status and just trying to figure things out. I was like, "You know what? Let
Mhm.
me work 2 jobs." I look back, I'm like, "How did I do this with sports and school and
Yep.
maintaining my grades and stuff like that?" But I think it's like when you have this, like, vision and this goal, you just for me personally, I just strive for it. I've always understood that there's a way. So, when I got to making $8 an hour, I quit the dollar store and then continue on with McDonald's, moved through all these different, levels of management, and fell in love with the process of learning about operations, people management, talent
Mm.
management, right? And then
Yeah.
also growth was a big part for me. If I was
Uh-huh.
growing, you like any company I was working for, you got me. Like I'm loyal, dedicated, we're doing this. And when I see there isn't an opportunity to maximize on the growth that I could potentially tap into, that's when I kind of shift to learn different operations. So I left McDonald's and then started working at Vancouver International Airport. And I worked with a
Mm.
brand, Milestones, Vancouver Canucks, Bar and Grill. And then I moved to Fort McMurray and I got hired by Starbucks corporate, and then I got to open up a store, and these are all, like, my roles are as operations manager. So I got to open up the second Starbucks location in Fort McMurray, an incredible experience, like, if I was to go, I would not change a thing. It was very uncomfortable, moved me into spaces that I didn't even imagine that I could ever be in, just those
Mhm.
challenges, the barriers that I face, and the brainstorming constantly of,
Mm.
being at a remote market, it's very challenging to retain staff. I had
Yeah.
to really get to know my team on totally
Mm.
different levels and come from a space of collaborating with them so that I can maintain a lower turnover. I had like the lowest turnover like they've ever imagined in a remote market. And not just for Starbucks, but other companies that were
Mm.
operating in that community. And then I moved back to Vancouver, got opportunity to open up a drive-through Starbucks location in Coquitlam. And at that point, after that opened, and I ventured back off to check out retail. And then I realized, okay, retail is not for me. And there was a lot of things going on in my personal life as well at that time. And I went back and worked at Vancouver International Airport, worked a bit at a hospital, and then I worked for a nonprofit for ISSO BC. So that's kinda like how my leadership journey has navigated,
Mhm.
and it's a whole other story with, putting in my business because I did work on my business for
Mhm.
9.5 years before I went into fully self-employed.
Oh my gosh. I'm just reflecting on everything that you have shared, Razie. Like it feels like 20 lifetimes in one. Like really, yeah. And what I always appreciate, just even in the conversations that you and I have had, outside of our time together, is you always find um, a bit of a golden thread of what are the lessons that I can take away. What are some key qualities that have shaped my journey in this particular space, and then you propel that. You always propel it forward in how can this not only be of service to me, but service to those who I want to uplift? And that seems to be a continuing thread that you always bring in, and I can see that even interwoven in what you've shared. I I can't help but also pick up on you've you've navigated being in uncomfortable spaces with this incredible grace, and always develop principles, principles of collaboration, principles of seeing people both where they're at and who they are versus needing to sort of stay regimented and rigid. And so I think that these are such powerful qualities of leadership that you're highlighting as part of your journey. Hi there. I just had to pop in to let you know something. I have a gift for you. Leadership can sometimes feel lonely and complex. So check out the resource page on my website and download your free leadership journal or strategic planning guide. I always welcome feedback, so let me know how they support you. Enjoy. Now, I do have to say, 2024. For those who are hearing and listening and watching, last year was a year that you moved into self employment. It was the year that you made a decision to go all in and bet on yourself and bet on your business. What made you realize that this was the chapter that you were ready to enter?
There are signs, right? Like
Mhm.
I have this goal that I've been working on for a long time. Like at first when I set
Right.
the goal of starting my own business, it was okay, I'm going to be there in 6 years. And,
Mhm.
as we all know, things don't go as planned and we get prepared for it. And then you pivot, you figure out, you reassess, reflex, celebrate, and then pivot. And for me, it taking 9.5 years, I just learned so much about, you know, regardless of what I was aiming for of going fully self-employed,
Mhm.
it was important for me not to neglect other things in my life. Just integrating all things. Like I'm at my full-time job. I give it 100+%, right? I'm
Mhm.
working on my business 100+%. I'm, having, in my personal relationships with family and friends, give it 100+%. And they needed to all be integrated. And I think that's the biggest thing I took away. And in regards to signs, it was like at my full-time job, I went actually to 4 days a week. In September of 2023.
Mhm.
And that was, like, that first step. Like, okay, growth is happening in my business, and I
Mhm.
was very transparent with my employer at the time that like, even before I got hired, that this is a focus for me. That is my goal,
Mhm.
is to go fully self-employed, and I needed any employer I worked with next to understand that, and that
Yeah.
transparency was really important for me. Some people might not agree with that, but that's just what key my core values,
Absolutely.
right? And, so there was that sign, okay, growth is happening. I have to increase capacity for my business. And then there's the other sign for me, I just felt this calling and this pull.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
girl, it's time. But then there's the other side of me that is like, oh, that's scary. Oh, we're getting close. I've dreamt of this and I've visualized it. I have manifested this. This
Yep.
is happening. It's scary. OMG, this is the time. And I remember reaching out to my friend Kim He owns a business and he
Again.
supported me like way back, when I was working on my first business that didn't happen. And he says to me again, and he said this to me, he's like, Rasie, I'm like, okay, I can go April 2024, I'm going to go fully self-employed.
Mm.
But he's like, all the signs are pointing for you to do it sooner. You're putting
Oh,
your feet are in two places at once, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And there was like a different situation where we had a conversation where I was trying to make a big decision in business. And he
Mhm.
said to me at that time, and then it clicked again.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I just got to pull the plug. I got to pull the plug February the 3rd, 2024. I got this. I'm supported. I have an incredible toolbox. I have a community that, I'm
Mhm.
working with as I go through it. I'm not alone. And it's all the things that I share online and emphasizing that
Yeah.
back to me, right? And and then February 3rd came along. It was very emotional, like leaving ISS of BC. I built incredible relationship with many amazing people, and so that was hard. And then all
Mhm.
of a sudden, I'm like getting up. It's like, oh, okay, I visualize this. I'm living this. This is scary. And not
Mhm.
knowing, like, where is that next contract gonna come from? Where's that next
Right.
client gonna come from? Where's that next collaboration is gonna come from? And at the same time, reframing those thoughts to,
Mhm.
okay, I've been doing this. I just gotta
Yeah.
amplify, gotta double it up, right? Like,
Mm.
add more to it. Now, instead of working 20 hours on my business, I have 40 hours. And the really cool part is, like, I actually don't have to work that 40 hours. I am
Yeah.
very efficient with my time and, very effective in regards to, like, how I move through my business. Just gotta
Good.
trust the process. We got this.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know when when you said when you really you built us up. You gave us some emotions here. You how good you're like building up that momentum to make that decision as you got closer and closer to February. Like I felt that. I felt the presence of the swirling of emotions and then to make that decision and I think you said, then you woke up and the next day you needed to put like 1 foot forward each time, right? Because you
Listen.
build and you build and you create a rhythm. And I remember you and I had connected early into that moment of that momentum that you were building. And I remember you were reflecting with me on um how how you had so much power and control over your time, which meant that you can set your days as early as waking up, as I think around that time you're waking up at, like, 5 in the morning, but that meant that you were finishing your days much earlier in the afternoon, and that gave you space to go for walks, it gave you space to be
Yes.
out in nature, and
Mhm.
the whole time I was thinking, "This is incredible." Like, to be able to have that level of autonomy, and
Yes.
and like you said, like entrepreneurship, it requires a mindset and it does
Oh.
require a lot of self-discipline. Um,
Mhm.
however, when you figure out the right alchemy, it's powerful.
Mhm. Mhm. And Marina, I do wanna emphasize like that, like you say with mindset, like we've been in for me, I've been in corporate,
Yeah.
working 9 to 5 kinda schedule, right? Even
Yes.
before that, I was doing like shift schedule where it's like, I work till midnight or working a mid shift, 11 to 7 in the restaurant industry, or working
Yeah.
early in the morning. And then my last 2.5 years of working at ISS of BC, I'm working that 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
And then reframing that and
Yeah.
changing that, it took a while. And I remember us, like, me sharing this with you that I felt like there was a couple times, I still remember the first time when I went to the beach, went for a
Mhm.
walk in the middle of the day for a couple hours just to chill, right? And I came back and I'm feeling this guilt. Like, hey, girl,
Mm.
1 to 3 p.m., you should be working right now. What you mean you're going to the beach? And
Yeah.
it's like that voice, right? From the corporate, how we've been wired that way, right? And I had to reframe that and remind myself that this is the lifestyle that I've
Mhm.
created. And this
Yeah.
is what I have visualized for a long time. And this is what works for me. This is what brings me joy. So it's like all those like reminding myself of the benefits. It took
Mhm.
a while. It took like at least a couple of months to like kind of shift away from that. And from when I had that conversation with you, there was something that I can't remember the exact words, but it's like it
Mhm.
takes time, right? Like you emphasize, like just giving it time. And amongst all the other changes that were happening in my life.
Which I think almost every, every couple of months, that we connected, and, for those who are listening, you will know that for me, some of the guests who come on Unspeakable Leadership, I've known for a while, and I'm very appreciative because I think it just allows us to be able to, showcase the incredible leaders and, women who are in our ecosystem, who are creating these sets of next acts. And then there's some women who I'm meeting for the first time on Unspeakable Leadership, and we're literally getting to know each other. And so I can't help but really call on something that's so powerful, Razie, with you, and that is it felt as if every single time we connected, you would say to me, "Oh, and by the way, so this is a new thing in my life, and I would love for you to share." Like, that's why I said, 2024 for you, which is just last year, was phenomenal. So,
Yes,
what's
yes.
the big changes that you were navigating
Oh
last year?
man. I was like chatting with my friend in Joki on Thursday and just sharing like how I navigate through I move at a different speed. And I remember at some point in my life where I would kind of slow down because some people
Mm,
make comments like, oh, there's always something new happening in your life. Like, oh, you're always like things are just moving so quickly for you. Just certain comments that hit me in a different way. I'll kind of slow down and I don't recognize who I am. And I'm like, okay, this is not me. And then shifting back to understanding this is my speed I move at, and it's
yes,
okay. That's how
yes.
I move, right? And just continue to own that and not expecting other people to move at that speed. And just coming from that place of this is who I am and this is how I operate. And I this is me. I receive it. I embrace it, right? And so after I went full time, being fully self employed, I moved in with my husband. So before he was husband, so boyfriend at the time, and out all the way to Sunshine Coast and move. And it was like not just moving in with them, but also changing my community completely, complete flip. And
Absolutely.
that was I think it was like a shock to my body because at first, because I'm in this environment, especially the area I live in, very quiet, lots of trees, lots of, there's a lot of quiet. There's
Right.
and one thing that happened for me with this change, as uncomfortable it was, like, moving out of Vancouver, because like, Vancouver is my community, it's like my people
Mhm.
are there, right? And, but one thing I know for sure, it doesn't matter where I live, I can create, community around me. I'm capable, and it's something I love doing, aligning myself with the people who are the right people, at that time in my life to be in my life.
Yeah.
And with being in around trees and quiet, like, there's a lot of writing that was just flowing for me. I wasn't experiencing writer's block anymore, and that was incredible to experience. And then we got married. Correct. I think it was like the same month I moved in, we got married. and that was really, really exciting. And, uh, and then I got to go on tour with them, which was like a wild experience. And their band is called Me Valet. They toured across East Coast, so East Canada. That it was a wild experience. Like I think coming back, like I took like 3 days to recover because I was like, "Whoa, it's such a high the whole time." And then the moment the tour's end, you're like, crash. I can only imagine what they experience. They are the ones on stage and
Mhm.
navigating all the things, preparing for that. And, yeah, and then the other change, that is to be announced soon. Let's
Mhm.
leave it at that.
Absolutely. I
And I
love it.
just seen already from people on, on my photos and stuff, but we're gonna leave that story for another day. I'm still soaked in and just experiencing every
Mhm.
single moment of it.
Oh, and, Razzie, thank you. Thank you for highlighting because I think, you know, there are moments in life when, things aren't happening fast enough. The 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 desire to want to change your job or the desire to want something more or to meet the love of your life or to experience all of these growth spurts of adulthood and for you to share that in many ways sometimes it can happen all at once or it can happen over a specific amount of time.
Mhm.
And so what I'm also hearing you share as part of your journey is the belief that it will come when the time is ready and when the time is right, right? Not not o and that's not always on the timeline that we want it to be. Sometimes that is going to be on divine timing or timing that we cannot necessarily, have any control over, and I'm so excited for you because I know that these many changes, although they've been hard and they've come with their own set of unique challenges, they've
Mm.
also solidified, just how powerful you know yourself to be.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that to
Yes.
me is what the next act is about.
Mhm.
I think of how critical it is for anyone who's considering the next act to know that it's not really a start. It's actually more of that integration that you were talking about of truly embodying who you are and who you've always been meant to be. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the part 2 that you and I will have because there will be a part 2. But I
Totally.
Yeah. But the one thing that I'd love as we get slowly to a close, the one thing I'd love to hear from you is, looking back, and I know that it's not just about 2024, it's been about many, many decades. Was there something that you look back and you say, that's what really helped me, and influenced me to make this choice in this next chapter?
Hmm. Hmm. Whew. That's a hard one, girl. There's so many things. It's like you're presenting me with all the things I do throughout the day that brings me joy. You're like, just pick one. Only do one for the rest of your life. One thing that pops up right now, and I think not there's the next act, and I think also in just how I look at life and how I show up.
Mhm.
It was something I heard in 2019 on Super Soul Conversations. So
Mm,
Oprah's,
mhm.
podcast, I religiously
Yeah.
listened to that,
Oh
like,
my
all of
gosh. Me
2019.
Yeah.
So many episodes, and it was like I was just going through a really tough time at that point in
Uh-huh.
my life,
Uh,
and I don't know if it was someone who was a guest on the show, or it was Oprah that said this, and it's
mhm.
that thing, instead of asking, "Why me?" Because I asked that,
Mm.
like, throughout especially after I moved to Canada and navigating all the different changes
Yeah.
and, navigating things in the workplace, personal
Mhm.
relationships. I will always
Oh.
say, "Why me? Why do all these things keep happening to me? I don't understand." And flipping
Mm,
it to what is the lesson here? What is this here to teach me? And I think the moment I flipped that, I let go of that victim mentality because it wasn't
mm,
poor me anymore, but it was
yeah.
me taking control of my life and not
Yes.
seeing the challenges, the obstacles, barriers, setbacks as an opportunity to move forward. What is the
Yep.
lesson here? Because things are not going to always go well. Like that's just life. It's part of the process. So yeah, so flipping why me to what is this here to teach me?
Oh, you know, Resi, I always say that you and I are we're the queen of reframes. Like honestly, I feel like that should be like our the LinkedIn title. Like, and and at the same time, it's for the reason that you just shared. Like to
Mm.
start from a different um lens and a starting point and asking a question
Mhm.
completely will change the trajectory and how you see, right, the event or what is happening or that conversation or that argument that
Mhm.
you were having with somebody. It will completely shift the way that you see it, but also the way that you resolve and go through it. And so I truly appreciate you sharing that because sometimes our next acts are not only acts, they're just one that, builds on upon each other and grows and will manifest in different ways. And so I'm also reminded of how you're highlighting for us that sometimes to get to the next act, we need to let go of the baggage from the previous one so that we don't carry it into the next one to rebuild and reinvent ourselves each time and each moment. So I close out our time, which is I can't believe it. Time just flies by with you and I. We'll look up and we're like, "Wow." Oh, like, and the sort of the question that I have is we have a range of listeners, incredible women of color, from around the world who are both in leadership roles and also some who are starting off their, journey. What would you say to somebody who is standing at those crossroads and deciding what their next act might be?
Mm. You have really great questions.
Thank you.
I hmm. This sentence comes up is what do I want? I
Mm,
think being it's simple, but it's like it's layered,
mm,
right? It's asking what do I want? Why do I want this? Right?
mm,
What is in the way of me crossing this road
yeah.
and am I ready for it? Right?
Oof. Yeah.
Because sometimes we're not ready to cross. And when I think back to my leadership journey, there were some opportunities that I really
Mm,
wanted, but I wasn't ready for it. And I'm not saying like physically or mentally, but like emotionally, I wasn't
mm,
ready to step into those spaces and acknowledging that. And then that's that letting go factor. Like, okay,
mhm.
I'm not ready for this. But when it's time, like you said earlier, divine timing,
Yeah,
it will happen. We don't like what's for us is not gonna pass us.
yeah.
If we're meant to cross that road, we will cross it. But I would say, like what is it that I want? Why? What could get in the way? And am I ready?
Such such a beautiful framework. That's what you're giving us, Razzie. And I really, really appreciate those um simple yet profound questions. And you said that. You said, it can sound simple, but it's so layered. And I really want to invite anyone who's listening who might be at that stage to really take up Razzie on her offer of journaling and spending that time to respond to those questions because you might be surprised by some of the answers that you have. Razzie, it was such a pleasure. being here with you in conversation. I know that time is precious, and so I always appreciate the investment of your energy and your time and your thought leadership. I end off with each conversation two questions that I offer to guests. The first one is one that you don't know is coming, just to let you know. I know, like thanks, that's lovely. And this is, if you could choose any word in the world that, let's say, the dictionary was going to be taken away, but there was a word that you said, no, we must keep this. What would that word be?
Whew. I'm gonna choose one of my words for this year, grace.
Love
Grace.
it. Yes.
Grace. We need more grace for ourselves, and we need
Yeah.
to give people more grace because we're all
Mm,
humans. More grace.
yeah.
Grace. Like, I couldn't say that enough. Yeah.
I think you said it 3
Yeah.
times, actually. That's so
Keep going.
I love it. I love it. And I love that. I love that extension
Mhm.
of so much
Mhm.
compassion. My second question, and final one is, many of our listeners and our viewers, in listening to the conversation, always want to also connect with our guests. And so, what is one call to action that you'd like our viewers and listeners to take you up on?
Like, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm quite active on those channels. For leaders listening, you can subscribe to my newsletter, and I'm sure Roheen will put
Absolutely.
the link. The link's
Yeah,
also on my website as well. And then for authors who want to write and publish your book, I invite you to register for one of our info sessions, and you can see that as well, like on my LinkedIn or Instagram a link.
amazing. Thank you,
Yeah,
Razi.
yeah.
And I really encourage
Thank
those who are
you.
wanting to develop their leadership and continue down a path of growth, as well as those who are writing to definitely connect with Razi. Thank you. Thank you for your time. This conversation was wholesome and so special, even if we had to do it for a second time. I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
right? It's shaking we're having an earthquake, but it's, with impact and value,
There
not
you
the
go.
actual earthquake. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Roheen.
Thank take
You too.
Hi there. Since my conversation with Razi, I've been reflecting on how, like this podcast, our lives are filled with seasons. Seasons where it's time to rest, it's time to slow down, and seasons that can feel like a roller coaster of sweeping changes to the point that life becomes unrecognizable in both good and also challenging ways. I've definitely had those seasons in my life, and I imagine you have too. So I think of how important it is for us to cherish each season for what it brings and also for the lessons that we are learning about ourselves. That to me was one of the greatest takeaways in just thinking about what Razi shared, and what I hope as we think about her next act, what each and every one of us can reflect on as well. What resonated for you? I would love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to pop on over to my YouTube channel, Instagram, or LinkedIn and drop a note. Hearing from you really would mean the world to me. Thank you.